Yeah, Wetmore had a presence about him. And he looked at me and he said, "You're going to be one of the best milers to ever come out of Colorado." I was on the ground, feeling the cobblestones, and I was like, I'm dying.
Yeah.
She says, "I'm calling an ambulance. You have every sign of an aneurysm." I got good news and bad news. Good news, you don't have an aneurysm. Bad news is you have a tumor that hemorrhaged. That started the toughest about 2 years of my life. There was this moment where Lucas, he just said, "Dad, you got to get back up. Got to start running." I remember thinking, I'm just going to get injured. I kept running until finally I was running 100-mile weeks and I was getting injured. I Googled, what is, the Masters world record?
Yeah. I am running to like be alive.
Yeah.
And now you're like, I'm running to like be the most alive, which
I think most running teams would have just ignored me. That's what is so unique about Tinman.
this is cool. No one does this. This is pushing the sport of running forward on and off the track. And it was like, yeah, so let's do this. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Tin Talk episode. I'm with Jacob Timm, the newest member of Tinman Elite and our first Masters runner who's going after a mile world record later in the summer. So yeah, let's dive into your running background and it's gonna be a great talk.
Yeah, well, it's great to be here. It's almost surreal to be here, actually, I think. And yeah, running background, it's fun to think about the early days. I got to give credit to my dad. He's a huge fan of running, and got to watch an old VHS tape the other day of me at the age of 5 running in an open track meet, and they had a kids race running a mile. I had a smile on my face the whole time. It's really funny. I ran around with my arms just by my side, and
Do you remember the event?
yeah, it was a full mile.
Okay.
And
Look at that.
yeah, it started right there.
Yeah.
It's just like I can see in that moment why I love running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it could be that it started right there, and I hope that other kids out there can have moments like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Most people probably don't know anything about you, so let's actually just deep dive. Who is Jacob Timm? Let's first talk running career, what that looked like, where you grew up, and let's dive into that because we got a lot to unravel in this talk.
Yeah, born in Portland, Oregon, and my parents were into running, just like for fun. So I always thought of running as fun, but I did gravitate towards basketball. And we moved up to Seattle, and Seattle was huge into basketball. So I actually dropped running for a little bit, and then I guess it was my senior year. Yeah, it was my senior year of high school. Basketball had ended. It was the spring, and I was single. And I was like, I'm going to go out for the track team just to meet some girls. And I had no plans on running. I can tell you that much. I saw the high jump, and I'm like, wow, that looks comfortable. Like, you jump and you land on that. And I like jumping. I mean, I'm a basketball player. So, and it looks like they wait around a lot. That will give me time to like look around for girls. So I'm going to give that a shot, work on my tan, stuff like that. And believe it or not, that's where I met my wife in that moment, like literally at the start of that season. So my plan were, we started dating, and I was 17. I started college at 17. I was young. So we met when I was 17, and I would have no idea that it would lead to where we are now. But so that's kind of a cool story. But yeah, so guy got injured. We had this, I think, top 3 ranked 4x4 team. Guy got injured on the 4x4 team, and the sprint coach had seen me run like a sprint workout for high jump. And so he's like, "Jacob, you're running the 4x4, leg number 2. And I was like so scared because our team was so good. And I'm like, I don't even know what.
What a good 400 times.
Yeah, I don't even know. And I made the classic mistake. I got the baton and just hammered, right? I remember like in that last 150, just like looking down at my legs, just wondering. There was like this total separation of like mind and body. And I never felt that feeling before. And all these thoughts crossed through my head. Should I stop? Like, are people laughing at me? Like, am I even moving? Like, like I'm not sure.
That's not what you want to think in the 400.
No. And, I was obviously trying to be this cool basketball player guy, and that moment was just so pure. And it was like, there was nowhere to hide. There was nothing, couldn't pass someone else the ball or anything like that. And I think in that moment, I also fell in love with running because of that challenge. And so I would go on to learn how to run the 400 and would end up running really, really fast my senior year, fast enough that I was able to get on the radar of Mark Wetmore at CU. And I was trying to decide where to go. I applied to a bunch of colleges, and I just loved the thought of going to CU. I also was still entertaining the thought of walking on for basketball because I had some like small like junior college opportunities type of thing for hoops, but it wasn't really like, something I wanted to do. So once the running took off, and I started looking at the team, like, wow, that's a legit D1 team.
Mm-hmm.
I took a visit, came out to Colorado, and was just sold. Just with like, I'm going to do this.
Were you sold by Wetmore? Because I think a lot of our listeners obviously know who Mark Wetmore is, kind of a living legend. So what was that recruiting process like with Wetmore specifically?
Yeah.
Then once you got on campus, what was it like having Mark Wetmore as your coach?
Yeah, so I would say it was almost completely Wetmore.
Yeah.
Well, that plus like I just love the campus and the college town vibe of Boulder. But Wetmore had a presence about him, and I had played for enough coaches in basketball and at a really high level. I'd been around a lot of high-level athletes, high-level coaches, and he had a presence about him. And he looked at me and he said, "You're going to be one of the best milers to ever come out of Colorado." And I could tell he believed it.
Yeah.
I believed it. Yeah. So I guess having someone have that confidence in you, and I'd actually never even considered running the mile.
Yeah.
Up to that point, I was thinking like we had just sort of got the 400.
Yeah.
Like I kind of got it figured out. But at the time, Colorado had a guy by the name of James Davis, who I think ran like a 45-second 400, 44, 45, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of knew my time was up.
Yeah.
In the 400.
Yeah.
So I had to move on to something.
Yeah. That's crazy. It's funny even thinking Wetmore like had anything to do with a 400-meter runner, because like obviously now he's, I don't even know how many time national cross country championships. He has, the best steeplechasers, the best 10K runners, the best 5K runners. So I can't even imagine like getting to talk to a distance coach, but then him looking you in the eye and saying, "Okay, you're going to be a good miler."
He liked the story. He was really big on these athletes from other sports who hadn't really like spent a lot of time running.
Yeah.
And because he liked to bring those people in and say like, you're almost like this raw, moldable athlete.
Yeah.
And so like my story of being a basketball player and what he saw in the 400 so far, just kind of being random.
Yeah.
I think it appealed to him.
Yeah.
He was the type of coach who he really rated himself on, of course, making his top athletes perform at their highest.
Yeah.
But he also would always talk about, turning walk-ons into All-Americans.
Yeah. And that's what makes a good coach.
Yeah.
Good coach. Like if you can, it's really easy to take a top talent and be like, okay, I'm not going to screw this up. Let's keep you healthy. And, you're going to be an all-American. But to take someone who ran, 425 in the mile in high school and turn them into a 1500 meter All-American, that's good coaching.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. So then that didn't last too long. So can you talk? You did mention your wife earlier.
All right, so yeah, it's gonna circle right back.
Yeah.
So we were talking on the phone. Like I remember my roommate, poor guy. Like we're great friends even still, but like phone would ring. This is back when there was no cell phones, right? So like 1996, 97.
I was born in 97.
Okay, all right. I could be your dad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So like, I would talk on this phone, really long cord and, several hours a night. She had a huge long distance phone bill, which is so funny to think about. Now our parents got so mad.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were charged by the minute.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And yeah, so we were still dating, and it got to the point where I'm like, I really like this girl. And she was one of the top recruits in the country. And she never will tell anybody this. I always have to say it for her. But she was full ride to Michigan, Berkeley, like all the top soccer schools. And so I was kind of waiting to see where she would go.
Yeah.
And CU at the time had just gotten a women's soccer team. Mm-hmm. So they were just starting out. So she wasn't, I tried. She wasn't really that interested in coming.
Yeah.
So I still remember I decided to go to University of Washington, partly because I was studying to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. And University of Washington had a really good medical school. And so I was able to convince myself that, hey, it's still a really good school for track and cross country, but I'm also focused on this academic side of things. And University of Washington is one of the top in the country for that. Mm-hmm. And which in reality, like, I didn't really care about any of that. I just wanted to be around my girlfriend.
Yeah.
So I still remember going into asking for a meeting and going into Wetmore's office and sitting down. And I think he knew everything. Like, he knew everything all the time.
Yeah.
He just knew everything.
Yeah.
There were things that happened on the team outside of practice, and you'd get to practice the next day, and he knew. He just knew it.
Yeah.
And he would ride his bike around the stretching circle, and then he'd come by you and just be like, he'd like make some comment like, if you ever do that again, you're off the team.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
You don't want to hear that.
No. And so like, you just couldn't get anything past it. I'm pretty sure he knew. And he goes, well, Jake, you called this meeting, so go ahead. And I remember thinking, man. So I told him, and it was rough because like both he and even Frank Shorter was coming to a lot of the meetings, had invested like time in me, trying to coach me into this distance runner. I think I had barely scratched the surface. I was just trying to like run mileage for the first time.
Yeah,
my freshman year. So it was tough, but he understood, and he also knew, I think, that it was partly or mostly because of a girl, which I'm not sure he agreed on, but
doesn't always work out.
Doesn't always work out. Yeah. So yeah, that was my short career at CU. But I will say this, my freshman year, I've never been on a team, UW included, and others, where I felt like family from like the moment that like our first practice. Mm-hmm. I mean, that team and that culture was, second to none, I imagine. And I know that a lot of people who have been on that team feel the same way. So I do wonder, like, what if would have stayed.
Definitely. So then transferred to UW. What did it look like? Your running career?
Yeah. So I was on scholarship. I worked it all out. I was on scholarship going to UW. Mm-hmm. They had a coach, Mike Johnson. I know the last name was Mike or Steve. I think it's Mike. So training over the summer, get a phone call from him. He's like, "Hey, they let me go." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, I actually didn't really care that much because I didn't really know him.
Yeah.
if he's out there watching this, like I'm sure you're a great coach. But I was thinking about me.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what does this mean for my scholarship? And he's like, well, they don't have to honor it.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't. I don't know if it's because I don't know if it was the stage it was at or what.
Yeah.
So income was Greg Metcalf, and Greg Metcalf didn't honor his scholarship. And he said, we'll see what happens type of thing.
Yeah.
The next 3 years, I had 2 knee surgeries, like multiple just really bad injuries. And frankly, like most of the top runners on the team did.
Yeah.
We had incredible talent where we could have been doing some of the things that UW is doing now.
Yeah.
It's a good school.
Yeah.
You can recruit to that school.
Oh, totally.
And they were, I just was never healthy.
Yeah.
And so that, I wish there was like a cool story for my collegiate running career. That literally is it.
So what was your, taking you back to that injury riddled time?
Yeah.
What was your relationship with running then? Like, I see you now.
Yeah.
We jokingly talk like every day on the track is a gift, which I'm sure I'll bring up in a bit. But like, was that not at all how you were thinking about track and field at the time?
I think what I felt like was I was never able to show what I was capable of. And that caused me to be frustrated. It was almost like if you were like one of the best players on the basketball team, but the coach did not put you in the game.
Yeah.
Then does it really even matter?
Yes. Yeah.
And so I had guys on the team that knew what I was capable of and things like that. But like having never gotten to string that, together was painful. And so once I graduated, and this was also, I switched over to game theory and economics, and I got hired by an investment bank. So, and they paid me a lot of money. So it was like running was done.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was all about my career at that point. And it was easy to let go because it was just, it was a lot of pain.
Yeah. So then, okay, you go, potential of running straight into, working, which I think a lot of us runners that are very, very good in college, like we knew at some point in our running, we're not gonna be able to run, but that's off in the distance. We're not worrying about that right now. We're so present with what we're doing and we love what we're doing. So you gave that up and then you started working, and what did work look like? What did your family life look like? And what did, running look like then?
Well, work looked like eating a lot of cinnamon rolls from this bakery.
Where is this, by the way?
This is in Seattle.
This is still Seattle. Okay.
So
do you remember the name of the bakery?
Specialties.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So like the bad part about working in banking on the West Coast is like you got to get there early.
Yeah, because
the market,
Wall Street opens. Yeah.
So you go from like the college schedule to like I'm waking up at 4:30 a.m. just to get into the office, just and wearing like a suit and tie. I'm like, what the heck is this? And but the good part about it is all the bakeries, the stuff was hot and fresh. And I'll never forget, there was this morning meeting, and once that was done, me and this other guy, we'd walk a block to this bakery, and this is kind of when things went downhill athletically, because I just started eating really, really bad, and I wasn't running at all. And my wife was still playing for UW, and she was a year younger than me, so she was still there. I remember I went to a soccer game and her dad saw me. This must have been like months after I started. And he just looks at me and goes, whoa. And I was like, what? He goes, you put on a few pounds. Oh my God. And I literally hadn't even thought about it. Yeah. So I went home and weighed myself and I was like, oh. Yeah. So like not running and eat. Because these cinnamon rolls were like that big.
Yeah.
And I ate 3 of them.
Oh my gosh.
And then McDonald's for lunch.
Yeah.
It's so anyway, went on got married to that same girl that I actually proposed to her at the spot that I met her on the track.
Oh, that's awesome.
So went back to that exact spot, and we got married, and I actually started doing triathlons just for fun. Try to get fit again, lose some of those cinnamon rolls, and I started to win them, and I really sucked at swimming.
Yeah.
Is brutal. Like, I could crush people on the bike and the run, but swim, it's just
yeah. Unfortunately, that's the first event.
And if it was reversed, I would have gone a lot further with the sport. But I eventually got invited to move out to Colorado and train with a professional team and other Olympians and things like that. So that got me back out here. My wife moved out with me, and we've been here ever since like 2005 or so. And so I trained, tried to make the Olympic team for Beijing, didn't make the team, ended up helping my friend, Matt Reed, who was my training partner. He did make the team. That was super fun. And USA Triathlon, paid for me to go to the training camps right before the Olympics.
That's so cool.
And it was really cool, but it was hard at the same time because like I was standing in the background while ABC was there interviewing.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was watching him get his USA gear.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I was just there to crush him in running workouts.
Yeah.
That was my job.
Yeah.
But I was super, super happy for him. He's a great dude. But then,
so did that give you the taste of like
it brought me back.
Okay. Yeah.
It brought me back, but triathlons, honestly, like they're so hard to train for, let alone race for.
Yeah.
I kind of got tired.
Gotcha.
And this was right around 2008. Housing market crashes, and I'm like, all right, I think I'm done with triathlons. Let me see about going back into that world of business. And so I started throwing my resume out there.
Yeah.
Put the athlete stuff on there.
Yeah.
But it'd been like 5 years since I'd done it. So this is this huge gap. No one would hire me.
Yeah.
And we wanted to stay in Boulder, couldn't get anything. So I'm like, all right, what do? We either move back to Seattle where there's more jobs, or I remember just spending a lot of time trying to figure out, or I said I could buy myself some time and get my MBA from CU.
Okay.
So that's what I did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to just get my MBA. The iPhone and the App Store and all this stuff was coming out. So I'm like, I'm going to start a company. I'm going to learn to code. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And so I became an entrepreneur almost instantly. Figured out that I could teach myself how to code.
Yeah.
And built this app that allowed you to order and pay from your table inside a restaurant. So really,
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. It really cracks me up because we were doing that in 2009.
Yeah.
And now, like, just the other night, we were at Rosetta Hall down in downtown Boulder, and I see the QR code, scan it, and like, I was doing that in 2009.
2009 is a long time ago.
It was a long time.
Like, that's crazy.
I know.
Because that's not that new.
No.
Like that is a COVID creation.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I remember people, we were embedding these QR codes on the table.
Yeah.
And eventually we actually went up to hotels in Aspen. We started up there, and we pushed it as far as we could, but that industry, you needed like a lot of money to scale, because these hospitality companies, they need you integrated with their stuff. And so we sold it off, got out of there. But it was at that point, I knew I was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
In everything I did. So, I mean, I just kind of kept going with that. I had a few different corporate jobs from time to time, but the entrepreneurial side, I mean, I was doing it inside corporations.
Yes.
Or I was doing it on my own.
Yeah.
And, we had our first child, Lucas. He was born in 2010. And then we had our second boy, Taylor, who was born in late 2011, so almost 2 years difference, like a year and like a half or a little bit more. And then really wanted a girl, so we went for it, and thinking, hey,
As one does.
yeah, if I have 3 boys, yeah, that's cool too.
Yeah.
But I got a girl.
Got the girl.
I got the girl, and
Girl dad right here.
Yeah.
Both of us.
yeah. I mean, I'm super happy about that, because it's such a fun balance,
Yeah.
you know, with everything. But so yeah, 3 kids. Right now, Lucas is 13, Taylor's 11, and Anna is 10. And yeah, just I would say, like, you don't know it at the time, but it's like the most important and the best thing that you'll ever do in your life. You know, like everything else gets put in perspective, and that's still true to this day.
Yeah.
So
I think it is so cool. Like Jacob's at the track with us all the time, and at least one of his kids are there, you know, like it's and they're not just like, you know, I think some kids maybe would be like, why are we at a track watching dad run around? You know, like they're there, they're running, they're hopping in half of our intervals with us. And I think, you know, that's like you just said, that's really cool. And that makes, you know, that makes me excited for, you know, when Ella's a little bit older, but like, it's really cool to see like, oh, they love running.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you talked at the beginning, like how a lot of other sports, it's like, oh, running's a punishment. And I'm like, no, like running's awesome.
Yeah.
And running is like super freeing and liberating, and put in properly and making it fun. Like it can be super, super fruitful for kids. And so it's really cool to see, you know, see your kids at the track doing that with you.
yeah, well, I appreciate that. And I think a lot of people who don't know would probably think that the conversation at home is like, all right, we're going to the track.
Totally.
You know,
Yeah.
come on, let's go. Get in the car. Dad, I don't want to. Come on, you got to do it. But what the reality actually is I don't say anything to them.
Yeah.
Sometimes I even try to get out the door without saying.
Yeah.
And like Lucas in particular, and Taylor's kind of caught in the bug some. Anna's more of a soccer player at this point, but he like sets his alarm. Like, he tries to figure out when I'm going.
Yeah.
And he tries to be there.
Yeah.
And if he can't do the run, he wants to be there so bad that he like will put in his electric bike, so that he can ride along.
He was with us for all 13 miles the other day.
Yeah, exactly.
So, that's awesome. Like I love it too. Like I think it's really fun. I think sometimes like professional runners are weird, where they're like, I need to be focused and have no one but myself at the track and my team and my coaches. And like I see like your kids out there running and like having a good time, and I'm like, that's actually when we're all going to run our best, you know, like just being happy. So
yeah.
But you know, I you know, it's something we wanted to talk about obviously at some point in this call, or this 10 talk, is, you know, you have children, and you had quite possibly one of the scariest health things that can ever happen to someone. I can't, you know, I remember you telling me one time, like, you know, like your kids were the reason you got through that. And so can you talk like, like, you know, part of the Jacob Timm story is this comeback that we're about to hear from.
Yeah.
And you were at rock bottom.
Yeah. So the part of the story that I think is important, that maybe I think is different than running, but still has the same approach in terms of, like, I think runners are entrepreneurs, right? In a lot of ways. And your product is you.
Yeah.
But you're still thinking about that, how to market it, you know, there's just so much going on, how to make it the best. It's not that it's a business, but you know, it's an engine. You want it to perform at its best.
Yeah.
And so it just transfers over. And I think, you know, for me at the time, I was instead of putting that into, you know, something athletic, I still remember I was standing in my friend's living room. A good buddy that I knew from Portland had moved out to Colorado, and his brother, who I'm also really good friends with, was standing there. And I was telling him, I've got this idea about how we can implement artificial intelligence inside of automobiles. Like 2 things that I just was like totally into. AI and cars.
Yeah.
Like I love both of them. And so I was telling him about it, and it was just sort of like this idea. It was just words. And he's like, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, I've done some research and I really need to partner with this emerging display company. And the CEO is giving a talk in Hong Kong next week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get on a plane and go there, and I don't have a meeting scheduled with him.
Yeah.
I'm going to somehow find him.
Yeah.
And talk to him and tell him he needs to partner with me.
Yeah.
And I literally did that.
Yeah.
And that guy, his name is Patrick, he came with me.
Yeah.
He's like, I want in. If you're going to literally hop on a plane with no meeting and fly all the way to Hong Kong to try to chase some guy down because you believe in this idea so much, I got to see that.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to Hong Kong, and that is exactly what happened. This guy's on stage, he's talking, and this is a startup that's gone from zero to unicorn. They're valued at billions in the billions. And they make these transparent, flexible displays that I wanted to put, embed in the windshield and things like that. And managed to catch him right at the last minute, talk to him. And he's like, we want to be in automotive. We just don't have the resources. So if you could take that and run with it, we'd totally be interested.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know why, but for some reason he believed that I was capable of doing that.
Yeah. Sam guy.
Yeah. So obviously there were a lot more conversations, but one thing led to another. And also at that conference was Meta World Peace, formerly known as Ron Artest.
Yeah. Met
him. And he became advisor investor.
Yeah.
Introduced me to a bunch of Lakers. And then it turns out the guy from the company was called Royal, was a huge Lakers fan.
Uh-huh.
And so because I was associated with them, he definitely wanted a partner.
Yeah.
So everything was firing on all cylinders. And so I created the story, the vision, with my old 1970 911. I actually embedded stuff in that old car, filmed it, found the email for the Porsche board of directors, chairman of the board, Lutz Meschke, and never met the guy, never emailed him.
Yeah.
Created this video, found his email by sort of guessing the patterns that I was seeing on Porsche's emails.
Yeah.
Sent him the video saying, hey, we should meet. No joke, 24 hours later, he responded.
Yeah.
And he had CC'd his top designers on the 911 team.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
And he's like, when can you be here?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So it just, for me, I like telling people these stories because if I hadn't tried, it would have never happened.
Yeah.
And of course, failure is possible.
Yeah.
Right. And I had to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the classic thing, it's either you are comfortable with failure or you're comfortable with regret.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the two.
Yeah.
Right. And I would rather fail in time.
Yeah.
And say I tried than have regret. So that led to a whole bunch of things that eventually put me in a position. I was actually asked to talk on stage in Lisbon, Portugal at a conference called Web Summit, and a huge conference, and shared the stage with people like the president of Microsoft, the former prime minister of UK, Tony Blair was there.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Really, really high level people. And that talk led to, as I walked off stage, leaders from Honda, Toyota, BMW were all waiting to talk to me.
Yeah.
And meetings were set up, went back home to Boulder and hopped on a plane from Boulder to Tokyo.
Yeah.
Met with Honda and Toyota, went from Tokyo to Zurich.
Yeah.
And it was early December. I was in Zurich, and I just gotten there. It was beautiful in the Christmas time. And I was walking down this side street, and, cobblestone side street. Everyone knows at these Christmas markets, and there's not a lot of people on these different roads that you can get to in between. And I remember feeling like, just like in an instant, like I had been, like how you'd imagine like getting shot in the head would feel like.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't actually know what that feels
Yeah.
like, but like, I don't know, just try to imagine, or maybe don't, like what that feels like. And I didn't remember a lot of this for months, but the only thing I remembered was like I was on the ground, and I was like feeling the cobblestones, and I was like, I'm dying.
Yeah.
And I knew it. I was dying. And I was like fading out. But it wasn't like you're going to sleep. It wasn't, you could tell like the lights were shutting. There's something about like your body just turning off that's just different.
Yeah.
Right. And, in that moment, I managed to recover enough to get back up, but I was totally out of it. And I went back to my hotel room. And this is where my memory finally started kicking in better. I remember I took ibuprofen and Tylenol, and it didn't go away. And I actually got on a train the next day, didn't sleep at all. The pain, and I've had kidney stones, so I know what pain is. This was worse.
Yeah.
Just like in my head. And got on a train up to Stuttgart to meet with Portia. And I was on this train. I was the only one in this train car. It was just super empty. And it happened again, and I started to fade out. And I remember it was like I was being given a choice, like take all the pain away and rest.
Yeah.
And it felt so good to like consider that, or deal with it and keep fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like I wanted to give up.
Yeah.
But
why didn't you?
I thought about my kids and my wife. I thought about my family.
Yeah.
And in that moment, it was so strong. I think if I didn't have that, I would have just given in.
Really?
Yeah. And I would have just, I don't know, but I don't think I would have made it. I really was fighting to stay alive.
Yeah.
And I don't know how, but like I met with Portia, and I don't even remember the meeting. Wow. So I don't even know what I said. Yeah. I do know that I eventually got to Frankfurt, where my flight was taking off, because I had a meeting with BMW in Chicago.
Yeah.
And made it to that meeting, and literally got off the plane, went straight to the meeting with BMW and Microsoft at BMW's technology office in Chicago. Meeting actually went well. I actually remember that one for some reason. Pain was still there. Everyone's like, all right, let's celebrate, because we had actually struck a deal to work together.
Mm-hmm.
My company plus BMW plus Microsoft. Yeah. Should have been like the happiest moment. Under the table, I was Googling nearest urgent care.
Like just...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, let's go get drinks. And I'm like, so I go, and they evaluate me, and she says, I'm calling an ambulance for you. You have every sign of an aneurysm.
Oh my gosh.
She'd done the exam. She's like, you could die at any second.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
I was just totally delirious at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I'll get there on my own. She's like, no, you need to get an ambulance. They need to take you. And I'm like, no, what I was thinking is I need to go to the dinner. Yeah. So dumb. So dumb. So I did. I went to the dinner. And my phone was just blowing up. They were calling me, trying to find me. Yeah. I like died on the sidewalk somewhere. Yeah. And at the dinner, the guys would later tell me, they're like, what was wrong with you? I thought I was putting on a good show. No. Like they were like, we thought you were dying. I'm like, I was dying. Yeah. Because they were all like, happy. Yeah. I was like, I'll have another water. Yeah. That type of thing. Oh my gosh. Got on a plane. I was keeping in touch with my wife, who's a nurse in neurosurgery. and was talking to neurosurgeons who were like, he could die at any second.
Yeah.
And I just waited till I got home. I remember walking out to the car, kids in the car, hey kids, I've just traveled around the world, literally done one lap. Let's go to the ER. And I went straight to the ER. And CT scan came back. And I'll never forget the doctor saying, I got good news and bad news. I hate that.
Oh, yeah.
People say that. It's like,
and they say, what do you want first?
Yeah. And, good news, you don't have an aneurysm. Bad news is you have a tumor that hemorrhaged, and there was so much blood that it was basically an aneurysm. And you could have died, but you didn't. That's what he said. And I'm like, he's like, and now all the blood, your body's, we don't need to like deal with it immediately. We need to deal with it, but you survived this long, so you're probably gonna get through surgery and all that. And I'm like, but tumor, what? I have a brain tumor? So then my wife walks in and he told her what was going on, and she goes, oh, that's the best type of tumor to have. And I was like, what the heck? Are they the best type of brain tumor? How does that even like go together?
Yeah.
And so like they're talking, I'm like Googling on my phone what it is. And it's on my pituitary gland. And it turns out it is the best type of tumor to have because it was like 99% of the time they're benign.
Yeah.
And so they were able to operate and remove this tumor. And that was the easy part.
Yeah.
Honestly. What no one told me was how hard the recovery would be.
Yeah.
Because internally my pituitary gland had been damaged. So all of my hormones and everything were out of balance. And that started the toughest about 2 years of my life.
Yeah.
Like I, left the hospital with instructions of you can't pick up any weight or anything that weighs over a pound.
Yeah.
So I couldn't hold my kids.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Yeah.
And just numerous other things, but I couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
And I didn't want my kids to know that. So I would take them to school. I would get up and it took everything I had just to like be normal because I didn't want them to be afraid.
Yeah.
And I'd take them to school. And I remember like once I dropped them off, I'd get back home and I would just crawl into bed.
Yeah.
And just try to make it through the day.
Yeah.
And the truth is I got really depressed.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time in my life, I experienced a level of depression that I didn't know existed.
Mm-hmm.
I think the term depression to me before that meant, oh, you're kind of bummed out.
Yeah.
Like this was like, I couldn't see anything.
Yeah, like debilitating.
Good. Yeah. Everything was dark. And that just spiraled. I started just eating a lot, right? I mean, I couldn't move and I was eating a lot, back similar to my first days at work. And I guess, yeah, I mean, I just gave up.
Yeah.
Mentally.
Yeah.
Except for one thing. I was there for the kids.
Yeah.
And so again, like, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
Without that purpose.
Yeah.
Whether it was getting them to practice or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's all I had. And I was like, what am I I had to sell off my business because I couldn't operate it anymore. So it went from this trajectory to like, get rid of it.
Yes.
Yeah. You can't even do anything.
Yeah.
BMW was sending us cars to work on.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was like
everything was ready to go.
Oh yeah.
And then,
yeah.
And your life is just like,
yeah. And then it went from like on a mountaintop, like, raising my arms in success to like taken down to like the low, like just trying to picture, will I ever even get a job again? That was a thought going through my head.
Yeah.
It got so bad that I was like, I'm worthless.
Yeah.
Like, why would my wife stay with me?
Yeah.
Why would my kids ever look up to me. Those are the thoughts that are going through your head. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And there was this moment where Lucas, he just said, Dad, you got to get back up. You got to start running.
Yeah.
So I never
If your kid says that to you,
Yeah.
you're doing it.
Yeah. And he wanted to run a couple miles, and he wanted me to go with him.
Yeah.
And so I did.
Yeah.
And I started running more and more and more. And eventually, he was riding his bike with me. That's kind of when it started.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I'm just going to get injured.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this will stop. I'll get injured.
Yeah.
And I kept running until finally I was running 100-mile weeks and I was getting injured. And I was like, oh my gosh. I just kept running.
Yeah.
Running and running. And yeah, I'd go to the track every now and then, even because Lucas and Taylor were so into it. I was like, well, I might as well coach them and teach them. So we got spikes, and they were like, oh, this is so cool. We'd go down there and we'd see Sarah Vaughn, a good friend of ours, and just awesome family.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, doing 200s or something. I'd be like, I still had some speed, and like, I'll lead you for 100.
Yeah.
She's fast.
Yeah.
So but it got the mind flowing in terms of like being on the track.
Yeah.
And
what'd you think about when you were running after all that? Like, what, 100-mile weeks, you're out there for a long time.
Yeah.
What were you thinking about?
I was thinking that it was bringing me back to life.
Really?
Yeah. It brought me back mentally and physically. Like, it was healing.
Yeah.
Every step. And I think that's why it wasn't hard to run 100-mile weeks.
Yeah.
Because I was so thankful to even be able to take a step.
Yeah.
And, the feeling I got when the run ended was like the opposite of what I had felt like post-surgery.
Yeah.
And it was like, you can do this.
Yeah.
You are going to recover. You are going to. And so it really flipped that whole script. And I started telling myself, the opposite things. So much so that at one point, I don't know exactly when, but at one point, I Googled what is, the Masters world record.
Yeah.
For the mile.
You're how old roughly at this age when you were?
So I was like 42.
Yeah.
I think somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And of course I see Bernard Lagat. Yeah, that one's never going away.
Might as well etch that mountain.
Yeah, so I'm like, let's just scroll down a little bit more and get to the 45 to 49-year-old group, and I see, it's still really fast.
Yeah.
But I see 4:13.96.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can do that.
Yeah.
And I think I can do that. I'm going to try to do that.
Yeah.
And then at that moment in time, it went from running to, just heal and all that to like this purpose.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think having a goal like that changes everything.
That's what's so amazing about running is like why you start is so different to like where you're at in your journey now. Like sometimes it's like, okay, I just want to break, 6 minutes in the mile.
Yeah.
And then you do that and you're like, oh my gosh, like I could run 2 miles in 12 minutes now. And it's like, it's just so cool. And like, you literally were like, I am running to like be alive.
Yeah.
And now you're like, I'm running to like be the most alive, which is the best version of myself I can ever be as a runner. And I just like, that's amazing. And it was so cool. Like when we first saw you at the track, I remember like we were just meeting. It was at Niwot. And it was a normal, just, we were just meeting for like a light workout. And I see, first off, we see this Porsche in the parking lot. I was like, okay, all right, who's here? Who's up at the track? Okay. And then we're up there and we finish the workout and we see you, in spikes, ripping 200s, which is classic Jacob. And you watch Jacob run, and has a beautiful, elegant stride, very, very powerful runner. But then, from far away, you're like, this is a 25-year-old ready to run 3:55 in the mile. And you get closer and you're like, okay, he's a little older, but he still is moving like a 25-year-old. And I think it was actually Sam who was like, basically just like, who are you, dude? Like, I'm pretty sure that was actually the interaction.
Yeah, I mean, the Niwot's super cool, right? Because like they let you run on the track during school hours.
Yeah.
And so it almost funnels everyone there, including people like me who are out running at 9 a.m. when other people are working, right?
Yeah.
But I remember pulling up to the track and seeing you guys, and I almost just U-turned it.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like, because I know like what you guys are about, and I know how good everybody is. And, I was kind of embarrassed about how old I was and slow compared to you guys I was, but like I also knew how serious I probably look, right? And so I'm like, if I'm in my 20s and I'm seeing a guy doing that, I'm like, what the heck is wrong with it? Like, what an idiot. Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'll just go run somewhere else or something. But I remember I got up the courage. I'm like, no, I need to get this done. So I'll just stay out of their way and I'll just get it done. And so you guys were like gathered at the end, and it was Sam who goes, he just like, I think he literally just put it out, dude, like, who are you?
And that's how Sam would do it. So I believe that. Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, well, what do you mean?
Yeah. You're like, where do I want to go with this?
Yeah. And he's like, well, like, why are you here? And like, yeah, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And
Jacob slammed down his fist, looked in the camera and said, I'm a Tin Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But, I think most running teams would have just ignored me. And so for me at that point, it was like the fact that there was this team that cared.
Yeah.
I think genuinely cared. And other teams would have just been like, that's just some guy running the track. But like, that's what I feel like is so unique about Tinman, is that the guys on the team, the culture, it's not just talk. Like, I was really just a random guy, and you guys like wanted to know my story. And I think it was, in that moment, and that just played out more and more and more.
Yeah, you kind of just stuck around.
Yeah. So once I was like, hey, maybe they're cool if like, because like I definitely would benefit from like being in the same environment as them. Maybe they're cool if I like tag along. And so, yeah, I just kind of I didn't know where you guys would be. So, kind of knew about what time you guys ran. So I tried to just like set up my schedule that way. And, it lined up quite a bit that summer.
Centennial summer. Yeah, it was so fun. Niwot started getting worked on. Yeah. And so we started working on another track in Boulder, and Jacob was, just showing up and would basically just say, what are you doing today? And me and Sam would be like, I'm, doing some mile repeats and then some 300s. And I'd be like, I'm doing some 200s. Jacob would be like, okay, that sounds fun. Yeah. I'll do the 200s. And was right there, like running 27, 28 second 200s with us. And for me, like, I think it's what is cool about running is everyone comes from a different background, but I mean, I can go on easy runs with so many different walks of people, but to share like an actual interval with like a pro athlete and like that's not easy to do. And so like when you were there with like us with the 200s, it was just fun. And slowly but surely throughout the summer, you kind of would, I feel like you'd pick my brain, you'd say like, hey, like, what do you think about this? Or like, this is what I've been doing. And we'd, have a little bit of back and forth. And by the end of the summer, you were in great shape, and you were just, ripping with me and Sam, and you basically were Sam's training partner. I feel like a little bit, because I was doing the 1500 and he was doing the 5K, and but by the end of the summer, we were like, I want Jacob around like a lot more, and I want him around, in some sort of like a capacity to be like a member of the team, because I felt like Jacob was embodying the Tinman spirit more than, some of the guys even on our team. No offense, guys. But I was like, I just had you were there, and you were like, you were just down to help us. And I think that's like a really, that's a really special thing. And so, we kind of talked a little bit, after that summer, like you went to Italy, and you ran a really hard mile there. And then in the fall, it was kind of like, I was in Philadelphia, but I would, get on the phone with my parents, and we were talking about a bunch of different things. And it was kind of like, hey, like, I'm doing the training. I'm training for a really hard record to break. Why can I not, be kind of a part of this thing? And, like, what was your kind of mindset with all that?
Yeah. I mean, I felt like it was a situation where there was a win-win, for both sides. And I saw in Tinman like just this amazing product if I just like package it all up, right?
Yeah.
The running, the everything that makes up the team, the coaches, the stuff that happens, in between, that's part of being a runner. And also the stuff that happens that has nothing to do with running, that's just part of like life.
Yeah.
Right. And, it's just so relatable. And I feel like I just felt like from a business perspective, I was like, they're crushing it. But like, I think I would love to like rev that engine with them even more, like bring some of my past experience and just try to like help them, because they've helped me so much. And so, and what if we just continue that, further? And I mean, everybody wants to walk into a room or walk into a meeting with a pitch and have the best product possible.
Yeah.
And I could just picture like having these conversations about you guys and just the story, behind it as a whole, and then individually. It was just all there. And so, talking with your parents and just getting along with them so well. Yeah. Like just great people. Right. I mean, the coaching speaks for itself, but like, I think we've all had bad coaches, or coaches that might be good coaches, but were hard to get along with. Right. Or maybe didn't create the best environment.
Yeah.
But like your parents just, just felt like family, the type of feeling you want to feel. So, I think, we started those conversations in the fall, and I think you and I were going back and forth about some ideas. I was in Arizona because it was a terrible winter. It was just terrible, and I failed to Arizona multiple times.
Snowbird.
Yeah. And I remember I was just on this run. I'm like, I just need to like let's just see if we can just make this happen.
Yeah.
Like, let me just like propose this idea, and you and I talked back and forth about it. And yeah, I mean, that was probably only like a couple months ago.
Yeah. I remember talking, and I remember calling my parents right after and be like, hey, Jacob and I have been talking. He's kind of been showing up to practice, but like, he should be a Tinman. Like, I was like, he embodies everything we believe in, and it's different. Like, a Bowerman track club doesn't have a masters runner on their team.
Right.
Like, but then it was kind of, I remember Reed, actually, I want to reference this when we kind of talked about it as, like, we talked about it in, our meeting with, everyone involved, and it was like, and Reed was like, I think that's bringing like Tinman Elite circa 2019 energy of just like, this is cool. No one does this. This is pushing the sport of running forward on and off the track. And it was like, yeah, so let's do this. who cares, like, and I think that's why we're so excited to have you on the team is like, it is different, and but it's Tinman Elite. And so, like, once that was kind of proposed and we kind of, got through like just some of the little barriers and that we needed to get through, it's been so great. Like, I wanted to reference it, and I want to kind of, like, wrap things up talking about it. But I do, like, when I would text you every day on the track as a gift, that was helping me more than probably you even realize. Like, I think, running it's been interesting for me the last few years, and sometimes showing up to practice was the last thing I wanted to do. But then when I had someone like you at practice that was literally running saved your life.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And showing up and, seeing you with your kids and seeing you like be so eager to get better. I'm like, man, like, I can never take this for granted again. And so it's been like just awesome, having you in the fold and having you a part of this team. And I'm so excited to kind of, see you go after this record.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's great to hear, because I think back in my 20s, I didn't have that perspective.
Yeah. And
so practices were hard, and sometimes races were hard because, certain stages were just like that. And I think one of my hopes was that I could bring that perspective, because I think being a full-time athlete it sounds good to a lot of people. It is good.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of people realize the pressure and the challenge of, especially for runners, like breaking down our bodies, like, that much. And how if you like have one little thing, in your leg or something like that, it can, change everything.
Yeah.
And it's like a constant battle to be right on that line between like pushing hard enough. So like, that was my hope, that I could like bring that perspective and, be a different, but I honestly, again, I don't, no other team would have even considered it.
Yeah. What would it mean, next 6 months? You're going after the record in September. So
yeah,
like what are you going to do from now until then?
Yeah.
But then what are you thinking about when you're on the starting line trying to run the fastest Masters mile race ever?
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird to say sometimes, just like the goal that I'm going after. But yeah, I turned 45 in September. And, there aren't a lot of mile races run at that point in the year. So still trying to figure out how soon I can do that. But obviously indoors only a few months after that. And there's the mile, there's the 3K.
Yeah.
And there's lots of things like that. So it's all coming up. And between now and then, it's like when I talk with your mom and we talk about like, what do we want to do? I'm like, I don't care about winning a race like right now.
Yeah.
And all I care about is getting faster for that moment in time that's coming up. So whatever we do is about that. And so it's been, going from 200s.
Yeah.
Right. Like, coaching myself. That's what I give myself, to, going to the track and like almost every day, right? Like I'm running, critical velocity pace, some sort of like threshold. And when I hated it. Like I hated it so much. And I was like, I'm getting slower and like, I can't rip a fast 200. And I probably couldn't compare to, but what's so cool is to watch that threshold pace just get lower and lower and lower. And, it's easier and easier to run at paces that were hard before. And I get it now.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't think it would have been possible any other way.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have arrived at that So having this type of training, like just the other day, like you guys are doing 1Ks and then I'll do 800s and I'll just like tag on the back.
Yeah.
And I get a little extra rest, but I still get to be part of the interval.
Yeah.
And I mean, like that's setting me up for, and I'm healthy. I don't know how, like I don't stretch. Like everyone always asks me like, what do you do? I don't have Normatec boots, like I don't do ice baths. I don't get massages.
He has 3 kids to run around the with after.
I just go home.
So,
that's kind of it.
Yeah.
But what will it mean to get the record? I think everything and then absolutely nothing at the same time.
That's running.
Yeah, it's like I think I would be excited about it, and then in almost an instant, I really do think it would be quick. I would need something else to go after.
Yeah.
And because, whether I get the record or not, I don't know if that's not really the win for me.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that I'm sitting here with you telling the story, it's like I could walk out the door right now after this podcast and go, did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that story is good, but the fact that it continues on and who knows what comes next, for me that's the exciting part. If there is a world record in there or an American record or if I can go to world championships, which are next summer in Sweden and represent the USA team and bring home a medal, that would be amazing. So but honestly, like I really, that every day the track is a gift, but like every day that I'm doing this, you guys don't notice this probably, but when I'm running on the track with you, the thought going through my head is, I can't believe this is happening. Like, I can't believe, like even today on the easy run, there was like 16 guys and like I'm 44 and like, I think the next oldest was
28, 27. Yeah.
And I'm like running along. Some of them were like 18.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm running along, everyone's got their shirts off. It's like a normal, like this is so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's probably a good place for us to stop.
Yeah.
Jacob, thank you so much for talking with me. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
I know we jokingly said before we leave, like, I was like, I kind of know your story because, like, I've obviously got to know Jacob, but, like, that was a treat just for me, just to hear all that. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
We're you're gonna be in a lot more Tinman videos in the next few months. So yeah.
Yeah.
Fun journey.
Good. Sounds good.